I'm so happy to be here at the APEGA conference, and I'm so glad you decided to join us. Whether you would like to advance your skills beyond just being able to boil a pot of water, or aspire to be the next Gordon Ramsay. You see what I did there? Advance and aspire. I am the chef for you. Today we're going to do one of my favorite dishes. It's coming from Hawaii. We're doing huli chicken and star noodle garlic noodle. Garlic noodle is from a restaurant in Lahaina called Star Noodle. I had to basically beg the chef to give me the recipe because it was so delicious, and I'm going to teach it to you today. The huli chicken is from Honolulu. It was invented in 1955, and huli means flip it, or turn it. And we're going to get to those details when we cook it. So if you're ready to get started, let's get started. What I'd like you to do first is grab a Dutch oven, right? A Dutch oven is a pot like this, and we're going to fill it halfway with water. Now, we aren't going to salt the water, and I know people saying, well, Chef Joey, whenever you boil pasta, shouldn't you salt the water? Absolutely. How much salt you should have? It should be salty as the Mediterranean. That is the benchmark for salting the water. That's what people say. But we're making a dish with oyster sauce, which is salty, soy sauce, which is a bit salty, and we're going to mince some garlic with some fresh salt. So we're going to keep the salt out of this one. So fill this up halfway with water. That's the first thing we're going to do. I'm right here with you. I'm going to hold your hand all the way through. I'm glad you're here. We're going to have a delicious meal in 45 minutes. And when the APEGA first asked me to do this, I was like, oh, hells yeah. Why wouldn't I not? So my water's on. I'm going to put the lid on my Dutch oven, and I'm going to put it over medium-high heat. Now, in saying that, that's going to be for the noodles. The counterpart to this is a wok. And I have my wok here. If you don't have a wok, you can use the large saute pan. In order to be an effective chef, you got to be an effective and an efficient chef. You have to be able to do two things or three things kind of like at the same time. You're going to start here. You're going to park that for a bit. You're going to start on something new. Maybe park that a bit, go to something else, start that, park that a bit, go back to the first thing you were doing, finish that off, blah, 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 blah. So in order to be efficient and effective, we're going to try to do two things at one time. Now that we have our water on, we're going to get our chicken that I asked you guys to marinate out of the fridge. And since I'm close to my fridge, I'm taking out my chicken. And for my vegan and my vegetarian brothers and sisters out there, I've also used the huli marinade and put some tofu in it. So right now, what we're going to do is take the chicken out of the marinade. So in order to do that, to make as least mess as possible, we're going to open the bag, we're going to grab a plate, and we're going to use some tongs, and we're just going to fish out the chicken. So I took the liberty to make some thighs and some breasts. So I'm going to take out two thighs, right? And then the two breasts, because most people are doing two breasts. Now this marinade can last 2 days, 3 days at max. For now, we just have our chicken on the plate. My tofu people, I'm going to do the same thing with my tofu. And this brings us to our first chef hack. Chef hack. Okay, so when I first met my lovely partner, she would cook chicken. On one side, it would be kind of dry, and on the other side, it would be kind of too pink for me. So I showed her this technique on grilling chicken. And I'm going to share it with you while our water is boiling. So as you can see, I have my tofu here. I'm just going to put it on a plate, and I'm just going to cover it with plastic. So I'm going to cover my tofu, and I'm going to leave it at room temp. This will help it cook faster. So I'm going to just put it on the side of my stove. As you can see, it's right there. My chicken, here's the hack. You want to get a Ziploc bag, right? You want to get a meat mallet. If you don't have a meat mallet, you can use a rolling pin. Now, this used rolling pin is one of my favorite rolling pins in the world. It's a French rolling pin. I love the feel of it. Every home should have one. All right, so we have our chicken, we have our meat mallet, we have our Ziploc bag. In this bag, I have a piece of chicken that's not marinated, just to show you. And notice on the chicken, the breast of the chicken at the top, because this fits the chicken like this. This is where he'll be puffing out his chest. So it's fattier than it is at the small part. And this goes underneath the chicken. So the breast is kind of built like that. What we want to do is flatten this side of the thick part. Do not flatten this side, but to even it out a bit so that when you cook it, it cooks faster, it cooks more efficient, and the breast part, the thick part, is just as juicy as the tip part. And the way we do that is with a meat mallet or wine bottle or rolling pin. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab one of my marinated Huli chicken. I'm going to put it in a Ziploc bag. If you don't have a Ziploc bag, you can put a piece of plastic on your cutting board, put the chicken on the cutting board and put a piece of plastic over the top. And we're just going to beat the thick part of the chicken down. So halfway. And what this does is it evens out the cooking. And it also helps the chicken to cook faster, and I'll show you the difference. So here's our chicken flattened out, little skinnier. As it gets into this part, it kind of evens out. And then the tip gets a little bit thinner, but near the tip, it's fat and juicy. So that's one. I'm gonna do it one more time with my next. And you could do two at a time if you like. Be down the fattiest part of my thigh. Avoiding the center, just using beating the top part and the bottom. Okay, so there we go. And that's my thigh. Much even cooking, quick cooking, huli. We'll talk about that later. Okay, you see that? You had me at chicken. Now I'm having a chicken, but I think the chicken's really having me. So now I'm gonna grab a plate and I'm gonna pat my chicken dry and then season it. So I'm using a paper towel here. I'm gonna put one of my breasts that's been flattened on a paper towel and then on my plate. And it's completely dry. And why am I doing this? You're asking me. Well, I'm doing this because I want it to sear as it hits the grill. I don't want any liquid causing evaporation so the chicken steams. I want the chicken to hit the grill dry. And we're going to put just a wee bit of Pam spray on it. We're going to get to that in a second. And here's my thighs. I'm going to dry them off. Now I'm going to season them. I'm going to start with a mixture I have here. I have some black pepper, and it's in the recipe, some salt, some 5-spice, Chinese 5-spice, and some white pepper. I also have, in the recipe, I asked you guys to put a little huli sauce on the side, a 1/4 cup, because what we're going to do is we're going to brush or baste the chicken as we flip it. So I want you to take that huli sauce and move it to the side of your stove. While you're here, if you are a vegetarian, you could bring back your tofu. And what we're going to do is season the chicken and the tofu. Leave it out at room temperature covered. And then when we're ready to grill it, we're going to talk about that next. So if you're with me, give me a thumbs up. I see you guys out there. Perfect. All right. White pepper. White pepper is used mostly in Asian cooking. It has a garlicky, pungent bite to it. So you find it in hot and sour soup. That's what gives it a heat, along with some chilies. I like the flavor. Black pepper is more North American usage and in French cooking as well. I have 5-spice powder. Now you have to remember that this has been marinating in pineapple juice, ketchup, soy sauce. So we want to be easy on the salt. In order to be easy on the salt, what we're going to do is just salt one side. So first thing I'm going to do is put some black pepper on my chicken breast on one side and on the tofu too. Tofu need love too. No one wants bland tofu. And then I'm gonna go with my 5 spice, and I'm just gonna be generous with my 5 spice on my chicken. And I'm just putting in my fingers and spreading it and rubbing my fingers, sharpening my fingers together to get the spice on it and distribute it evenly. Now we're gonna do the other side. So I know people saying, Chef Joey, I got a lot of 5 spice here. White pepper, because we use black, I'm just gonna use a couple pinches. Just the dusting. Okay, just the dusting. And same with my tofu. I'm gonna flip it over. And the first thing I'm gonna do is salt gently the other side. And just enough salt. As I get older, I'm cutting down on my salt. I'm just using it for a bump of flavor, not to make the dish salty. Turning over my tofu, which has been marinated. And I'm sure people are saying, my water is boiling, Chef Joey. Yeah, we're gonna get to that. Just hold on. Let's salt this tofu. And then we will repeat the process with 5 spice. Both sides. And on the tofu. And if you have 5 spices left, that's okay. We can put it back in the jar. Black pepper. And you could fast forward through this if you like. And white pepper. Now we're gonna leave these 2 proteins out at room temperature next to the side of my oven. I've invested in a cast iron grill, and I'm using the grill side. So if you don't have one of these, that's cool. You can find them at Walmart, I think 54 bucks. They're really great. And you just put them over both burners and you get a nice grilling effect. The other side's flat, so you get a nice searing effect. I'm going with the grill side today because I like the grill marks on the Huli chicken. Okay. So if you don't have any of those, once again, you could get a saute pan, a large saute pan. We're gonna let our equipment get hot, and that's what is gonna cause the Maillard effect, or the searing or the grilling of the meat to bring out the most flavor. Okay, and I'll talk about that when I'm grilling. Last tip, we're gonna spray it with a little Pam, and I'm going all coconut. I'm going coconutty on you. I'm just gonna spray my chicken, as you can see here, one side, and spray my tofu. When I'm ready to grill, I'm gonna spray the grill, and I'm gonna cook my chicken, but that's about 15 minutes from now. Let's get back to our boiling pot of water with no salt. I'm happy to be here today. This is fun. I hope you're enjoying it. We need, for our noodles, 4 ounces. So I could hear everybody going crazy saying, Chef Joey, what's 4 ounces of noodles? Well, this is a pound, so half of this. Or every home should have one. You could get a scale and weigh out 4 ounces of noodles. I've weighed out 4 ounces of noodles. And once I found the 4 ounces, I wrapped them up in plastic, and I'm gonna measure. It's about the diameter of a quarter, about the diameter of a quarter. Now you could put a little bit more. Don't put a lot more, because then you throw the sauce to noodle ratio off. Cool? I usually ask when I do these classes live, any questions? So if anybody's having a question, I'm gonna try to channel their question. I got it. Your water's boiling. Gotcha. So what we're gonna do, if your noodles are ready, we're gonna add your noodles to your water right now and make sure that they're all submerged before I move on. And you can see the little side camera, the oven cam, as I do this. We wanna cook them a little bit past al dente, but not much. As I asked you before, in the prep list, to do 3 prep items, what you have to put together is your fish sauce, soy sauce, brown sugar, white sugar, in a small bowl. And that's what I have right here, okay? I also asked you to peel 5 toes of garlic, and I have that right here. If you're garlic intolerant, cut it down to 2. And we're gonna chop that later. And then we wanna micro zest our Parmesan cheese, and not the secret ingredient. Why micro zesting? Well, if you grate it and the grates are too big, it's going to take a long time for it to melt. As it's melting, it's cooking. Every home should have one of these, a micro zester. And I'm just going to show you the technique. I'm just grating like so. And that gives you a fine Parmesan cheese. It's going to melt like butter. Now that we have our prep list done with our garlic peeled, our soy sauce made, and our Parmesan grated, we need to get a couple more ingredients. We need butter, sesame oil, garlic powder, turmeric, oyster sauce, and sambal oelek. And we're going to give you time to get all these ingredients in front of you, and then we'll give you the measurements of how much of those ingredients you need. As you get these ingredients together, you might be asking yourself, Chef Joey, why are you using butter? Why are you using sesame oil? Well, I'm using butter because I love the rich creaminess of it, and I'm using it with sesame oil because I love the flavor, that Asian-inspired flavor that it brings to a dish. Another reason why is butter has a low flash point. I'm adding the sesame oil to it to help extend the heat. I could make the heat hotter on my wok, and the sesame oil will carry the butter and it won't burn. So that's why I'm using those two together. Turmeric and garlic powder, I'm using garlic powder in conjunction with the fresh garlic to keep that flavor there. And I'm using turmeric as a color provider, and it's good for your joints. So the turmeric is going to give this kind of like beautiful saffron-y yellow color, and the garlic powder is going to give it a little bit of backbone to add to the garlic cloves. Oyster sauce, it's in this dish. That is the backbone of the dish. It's in there. We're going to cook it slightly, just a little bit, to bring the flavor out. If you are allergic to shellfish, please don't try this. There is a mushroom soy or thick soy that you could use in a replacement. Sambal oelek, which is a spicy paste. So here's the measurements. We need a teaspoon of soy and 1.5 tablespoons of butter put together. And once you do that, you're going to give your noodles a stir, because they should be coming shortly. And I have that in a dish that's going to go in my wok. So as we come to the garlic and turmeric, I put them together in a small container, a 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder and a 1/4 teaspoon of turmeric powder. And again, turmeric is great for the joints, gives it a nice saffron-y color. I have 1 tablespoon of oyster sauce on the side, and I have a 1/2 teaspoon of sambal oelek. And this is what the sambal oelek, it's a garlic chili paste, and the oyster sauce is here. I'm getting right into my power pose. I have my hand on my hip. I'm giving my noodles a stir. I'm telling them who's boss, and I'm going to try one out right now. And it probably needs 2 more minutes. While that's on, I'm going to chop my 5 toes of garlic. I'm going to mince my garlic. I find you get the best flavor for this dish if you use fresh garlic. If I'm making stew, I'm using the garlic puree. I use it at home all the time. I have the time, so I'm just gonna mince this garlic. So I'm gonna show you this technique, because this class is about food, folklore, and technique. So I'm gonna use my chef's knife, and I'm gonna smash each clove of garlic. Remember I told you about the salt? I'm gonna put about 2 pinches of salt on the garlic. And what that's gonna do, so get 2 pinches of salt, it's gonna act as a pumice and wear your garlic down. So now that it's flattened, now that I have my salt on it, I'm gonna start chopping. And of course, I'm using a sharp knife. I have my dominant hand almost at the heel of the knife, my less dominant hand at the tip of the knife, and I'm pivoting. This is about 1/4 of an inch off the table to chop my garlic. And this is the beginning of the process. And once you have it chopped and manageable, we're going to squeeze it down and mash it into the cutting board. with the thick side of the knife, the unblade side. From now on, I know this is a lunch class, anytime I say the word chop, you gotta have a drink. So let's keep chopping. Jeez. Okay, I'm back at it. And if you're doing the same thing, you notice the garlic is giving way to the salt and the power of the knife and the smash. Last but not least, I have a Thai chili. It will be spicy, but if you're one of those kind of guys that wanted extra spicy, you could cut a half Thai chili. All kind of gals. I also have dried chili peppers, and that dried chili peppers is something that's a little bit stronger than that, and this has a fresh green taste to it. This has like a burn your lips right as it hit your mouth taste to it. So I'm gonna put that on the side. Then I also have this chili paste that's really hot that I get from, I think it's Save On, and I like that too. I'm from New Orleans. And every time someone goes somewhere like the Caribbean and New Orleans, they bring me back hot sauce. Don't be that guy. Don't be that guy. Don't be that girl that brings somebody that's an aspiring chef or cook hot sauce. Especially if the hot sauce says things like ass in the tub, hemorrhoid provider, devil's piss. Nobody want that. That's too hot, right? Don't bring that to people. Get them something nice. How about a hat or a t-shirt? Much easier. Okay, I got a cupboard full of crazy named hot sauces that I will never use. The names just terrify me, right? Kick in the ass, come on. Anyway, we got our stuff in front of us. None of that crazy hot sauce. We got some favorite profiles that we could use. Let's check our noodles. So my noodles are ready. I'm gonna pour them out, and then I'm gonna put them back in my Dutch oven, and I'm gonna add to them a little bit of the starchy water from the straining and a teaspoon of butter, like so. And if you like, a dab of sesame oil. And this, what this is gonna do is stop them from sticking together and flavor them at the same time. We got them cooked a la minute. We got them cooked al dente, a little past al dente. And we're gonna put them on the side, not on the fire, lid on in the back of the stove. Turn on our grill or turn on our cast iron skillet and allow it to get hot. I'm going to do both. We have our chicken right here, which is going to go on our grill when it gets hot. And for our tofu people, I'm going to do the same thing here with the tofu. I'm putting it in front of me. I know what you're saying. Chef Joey, what about the noodles? No problem. The noodles are going to go after the chicken. A lot of people cook beef, pork, chicken, fish. Immediately it comes off the grill, they cut into it or slice it, and all the juices run out. What we're going to do, as we wait for our grill and our pan to get hot, is we're going to let our chicken rest on a platter with a piece of aluminum foil lightly draped over the top to hold the heat in and to keep the juices in. We're going to grill both sides, huli style, and then once it's cooked, we're going to put it on here and cover it, make the noodles, then put everything in and serve. Okay. What do we need for the huli? Well, we need our huli sauce, and we need a pastry brush. And we got time to do that as our pan gets hot. My heat is medium high heat. If you're using a gas stove, probably 8 o'clock is where it's at. Medium high heat, right? If you use an electric stove, probably 9 o'clock. Yeah, just you need a little bit more heat. And we're just gonna put our hand over it and not touching the grill and see where the heat is. You feel it coming through the metal. So that's important. I have to teach you guys anything, we need to get our pot hot so that there's action and ignition and engagement and igniting the product or the protein that we're cooking. I only have to give you one tip. It was, let's get the pot hot, because we eat with all our senses. We want to hear that sizzle. We want to smell it. We want to see it brown. We want to salivate as the protein is cooking. Okay, so those are getting hot. I have Pam. I'm going to Pam my grill, and I'm going to turn on my exhaust fan. So turn on your exhaust fan, Pam your grill, or Pam your cast iron skillet, or your saute skillet for that matter. And in another couple minutes, we'll be ready to grill, because it's quite not hot enough yet. Everybody's with me? Awesome. Two things we could add more to our noodles, and I have them here, and it's optional, is cilantro, which is not everybody's favorite. Some people say it tastes like soap. It's the most used herb in the world. Every culture uses it, from the French, Thai, Indian. It's a beautiful thing to have, cilantro. So we could chop that up after the noodles are done as a garnish. Same with the chilies. I'm going to show you how to do that. And then green onion. My grill is starting to smoke a bit, so that's telling me it's hot. I'm going to grab my chicken breast, and I'm going to grill my chicken breast side down. So Pam spray, the breast side, the flat side, the shiny side, the side that's sticking out, not the side that's cut away from the chicken's carcass, onto the grill. And I'm gonna go with 2 of my thighs as well on my grill. And I'm gonna let it stay there till we sear that side. In my cast iron skillet, I'm gonna go with the other chicken breast in there. I'll know when to flip it 4 minutes in. And I could tell by looking around the parameter of the protein that you're cooking, and if you're seeing any brown or any cooking happening. The chicken flesh will get kind of it's translucent now, kind of pink. You notice it'll turn white. So we need another 3 minutes. Cool. Now that our chicken is on, I know my tofu people, we're gonna go on in a second. I'm gonna start my noodle sauce. I'm gonna put my wok or large saute pan on top of a medium-high heat, and I'm gonna allow it to get hot. 2 things at one time. When I look at my chicken, I'm gonna get my tongs, and I'm gonna show you what it looks like, guys. See those nice grill marks? That's what you want if you're using the grill. I'm going to turn it to make the grill marks go horizontal and then on an angle. That way we get that X look. And for this, we're gonna do the same thing. We're not ready to turn them over yet. 1 more minute. Huli, huli, 1 more minute. And back here, I have my beautifully seared chicken. I'm gonna let that go 1 more minute before I turn it over. When we do turn it over, I'm gonna huli, huli it with my basting sauce. This pan is not hot yet. I'm gonna turn the heat up to medium high. I'm gonna allow it to get hot. Tofu is gonna go back here. And here's my first piece going on my grill. I prefer the grill, and it's good to have in a home because it's so effective. The temperature doesn't drop every time I put a new piece of protein on it or a new ingredient. It holds the heat really nicely. Okay, my wok is on. I'm gonna huli huli my chicken by turning it over first time. And there it goes. And I'm gonna brush it lightly. And I'm gonna turn over my thighs. We're gonna do this 2 more times. The thighs are gonna take another 4 minutes. The breast is going to take another 5 before we flip it over again. And Huli. Notice how pretty the grill marks are. The chicken's probably still raw inside. The glaze that I'm putting on now is going to bring the flavor out. We're going to do that 2 more times. Chicken back here in my pan. Those of you guys using cast iron, we can flip that over and I'll show you what it looks like. Oh yeah, see that gorgeous color? That searing, that Maillard effect. As you can see, I turned my chicken over to the other side and gave it a little bit of a basting in my skillet. I'm just gonna leave it there on high heat. My pan here is getting hot. My chicken is cooking nicely. In another 2 minutes, we're gonna flip it over and Huli it again. I have my resting plate ready to go. Wok is hot. In my wok, I'm going to add my sesame oil along with my butter. And while that melts, as soon as it's melted, I'm going to add my garlic, and I'm going to get a heat-resistant spatula. And I'm just going to turn my heat down and allow the garlic to intermingle with the butter, but not burn. So I'm turning my heat down and just mixing my garlic in with my butter. You could start to smell it about right here. Keep stirring. You could follow this as you smell the garlic. What your 1 tablespoon of oyster sauce. And then that get cooked in. Followed by your garlic powder and turmeric. And that gets cooked in. And I'm going to stir that vigorously to get that beautiful orangey saffronish color. With my heat on low now, my wok hot, I'm going to add my fish sauce, brown sugar, and sesame soy sauce. I'm going to mix that in. And now I'm going to add my noodles. I'm going to coat my noodles with my sauce. And I'm going to give it 1 minute like this. And I'm going to follow it with my Parmesan cheese, as well as my samba olek. But first, I'm going to huli. And I'm a base. And then my Parmesan cheese goes into my noodles now, along with my sambal. Now, right here, when it gets to the noodles, we could turn our heat off. Pull it off the fire and cover it with the lid from our Dutch oven. As we continue to cook that, I'm going to check my chicken and give it another flip. Now my thighs are done. I just need to baste them 1 more time. Tofu still cooking. So we want to undercook our chicken. So the way you tell if your chicken is 160 degrees is you have to imagine giving someone a high five. You give you a high five and you press between the index finger and the thumb webbing, that's medium rare, right? High five, medium rare. If you are giving someone a fist bump, right? You're doing that and you press between the webbing, that's about medium, medium. If you uppercutting somebody, yeah, and you press, that's well done, medium well to well done. Probably more on the well done side. So when I press the fatty part of my chicken or my thighs, not a lot of give. They are kind of like this, especially the thighs. So I'm going to pull my thighs off. Huli, huli, and one more time. Give them a press. They seem to be well cooked all the way through, and I'm going to move them to my cooling tray. I have my beautiful piece of chicken there. It still needs a little bit more time here. I'm going to turn my tofu. Whoopsie. And huli huli it one more time. Sorry, my tofu people. I'm gonna flip this piece of chicken and huli huli it one more time and off it goes. And notice I'm gonna put the pretty side up like so, and on this tray to cool or rest. It'll continue cooking. This chicken needs a little bit more to go, so I'm gonna huli huli it. So I'm gonna turn my heat off of my grill and grab my tofu using a spatula. If you like, you could add some fresh green onion and some fresh cilantro. I'm gonna chop that up right now. There's my green onion. And I know not everybody likes cilantro, but if you are going cilantro, you're gonna chop the cilantro up a la minute. If you chop it up ahead of time and put it on the side, all the flavor, all the essence will aspire to leave. So I'm just gonna chop it up now when I need it. And of course I have my Thai green chilies. And notice I'm laying them all out for you so you can see. I'm gonna chop that up a little finer. Well, that was a doozy. So here's the chicken and tofu, which I'm gonna put on our serving plate. As you can see, so I got 2 chicken breasts, 2 chicken thighs. And for my vegetarian, vegan, tofu lovers, I have my tofu right here. And now the noodles. I've allowed them to get hot again. They have a beautiful orange color, and I'm gonna put them in the bowl. Look at that, Steve. Doesn't that look good? Doesn't that look delicious? Now, while we're sitting here with the noodles, you could add your green onion, right? A little bit of green onion on top, a little bit of cilantro. You could add your chili if you like. You could add your Thai chilies if you like. You could put a little bit of chili oil on top if you like. This is crazy. You could squirt a bit, stir it in, and you're ready to go. I'm going to show you how to slice your chicken on a bias after it's been allowed to cool. I'm going to take my knife and I'm just going to go across the grain of the chicken on an angle this way. Not only does it look prettier than slicing it across, notice no juice is running out because I allow the chicken to sit. But when you present that on a plate, you could fan it out and people could see its juiciness. Light, light, slight pink, we do eat with our eyes. Emeril Lagasse told me that. So if I was to plate this up on a small plate for lunch, I'd grab some of the noodles, I'd put them in the center. Now, if I had more huli huli sauce, you could paint it here, but I'm a bit of a purist. I like where I'm at. If you would like to do something like this as a virtual team building class, please check us out at ChefJoey.ca. We would love to do something for you. Thank you, APEGA. Hope you guys have a nice day and enjoy the rest of the conference. Chef Joey out.